Have you ever tried to order a coffee in English and suddenly your mind went blank? You knew the words, but when it was your turn to speak, nothing came out. Or maybe you wanted to start a friendly chat with someone, but instead of speaking smoothly, you paused, translated in your head, and the moment slipped away. That's exactly what we're going to fix today. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to handle simple, real conversations in English with confidence, whether you're ordering food, greeting someone in the morning, or asking for directions. These aren't textbook dialogues. They're the conversations you'll actually need every single day, and they're the foundation of sounding natural and fluent. Let's dive right in with a quick example. Imagine you've just walked into a cafe. The barista greets you with a smile and says, "Hi, what can I get you?" You reply, "A cappuccino, please." They follow up, "Would you like it with milk or almond milk?" You answer, "Milk, please." A simple back and forth, but in those 3 lines, you've already practiced real English you can use tomorrow morning. Now, here's the important part. Notice how short and natural those sentences are. You don't need complicated grammar or big words. You just need phrases you can say quickly, without thinking too much. That's what fluency feels like. And that's what today's practice is about. By the way, if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Laura, and this is Talk Easy, English Podcasts, the place where learning English feels simple, relaxed, and most of all, useful. My goal is to give you practical English you can use in real conversations, not just theory. So if you're ready to finally stop translating in your head and start speaking naturally, you're in the right place. Let's continue with another everyday situation, your morning at home. You walk into the kitchen and your roommate or family member is there. You say, "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" They might reply, "Yes, I slept well. How about you?" You answer, "Pretty good, but I definitely need some coffee to wake up." These short morning conversations do more than fill the silence. They build connection, show care, and give you the chance to practice common phrases. And because you'll say them almost every day, they're the best practice for fluency. Let's add another variation. Maybe you ask, "Is it going to be cold today? Or do I need an umbrella?" The reply might be, "It's chilly, wear a jacket," or "Yes, it might rain later." With just a couple of lines, you're learning how to ask questions, give advice, and respond politely, all skills that make your English flow naturally. Now let's move to a slightly trickier situation, phone calls. Talking on the phone in English can feel intimidating because you don't see the other person's expressions. But the pattern of conversation is still the same. Imagine calling a friend to make plans. You start with, "Hey, how are you?" They reply, "I'm good, thanks." "And you?" You say, "I was thinking we could grab dinner tonight. Are you free?" They answer, "Sure, what time?" You suggest, "Around 7?" They agree, "Perfect, see you then." This short exchange includes greetings, making plans, confirming details, and showing excitement. Practicing this kind of mini conversation gives you the confidence to handle real calls without freezing up. Now let's picture another scene. You're cooking dinner with a friend. You might ask, "Can you pass me the salt?" Or, "Do we have any onions left?" They reply, "Yes, bottom drawer," or "No, we're out. Should I run to the store?" And you say, "That'd be great, thanks." Simple as it looks, this type of dialogue is powerful. It teaches you how to ask for help, respond politely, and coordinate tasks, all in natural, conversational English. And because these phrases are tied to real actions you already do in daily life, they stick in your memory. The truth is, fluency doesn't come from memorizing long lists of vocabulary. It comes from mastering small, repeatable conversations like these. When you practice them daily, they become automatic, and you start thinking in English instead of translating. So far, we've covered cafes, mornings at home, phone calls, and cooking. Each one shows how ordinary conversations can become language practice. But life is full of many other situations at work, at school, at the doctor's office, or even when you're out for a walk. And each of those situations gives you another chance to practice speaking fluently. Before we move on to those, remember this. The best way to grow is to practice like you live. Every time you say, "Good morning, can I get?" or "Thanks a lot," you're not just speaking, you're training your brain to make English your second nature. Now that you've seen how simple morning chats and household conversations can sharpen your fluency, let's move into another part of life, work or school. These settings are filled with short, polite exchanges, and learning to handle them well makes you sound professional and confident. Picture this: a coworker asks, "Did you finish the report?" You reply, "Not yet, I'm still working on it. I'll send it by the end of the day." That's a polite, clear answer that shows responsibility. Or maybe you need help, so you say, "Do you have a minute to check something with me?" And they answer, "Sure. What do you need?" In school, the rhythm is similar. A classmate might ask, "Did you understand the assignment?" You could say, "A little, I think we just need to write a summary of the article." Or you could politely ask your teacher, "Could you explain that again, please?" And they'll respond, "Of course, let me go over it once more." Each of these exchanges trains you to ask questions, clarify details, and respond respectfully. And these skills are more than just language. They make you sound thoughtful, reliable, and organized. But English isn't only about professional or academic environments. It's also about those small, friendly conversations we all have outside. Imagine you're waiting for a bus, and someone nearby smiles and says, "Nice weather today, isn't it?" You reply, "Yes, it's beautiful, not too hot, not too cold." A few words, but it's enough to make a connection. Small talk about the weather is common in English-speaking countries. It might feel unimportant, but it's actually a doorway into bigger conversations. After replying, you might add, "Do you come to this park often?" Or, "I love walking here in the evenings." Just like that, a casual remark can turn into friendly interaction. Here's another simple example: asking about transportation. You say to a stranger, "Excuse me, do you know what time the next bus comes?" They answer, "I think it's at 3:45, but it's often late." With only 2 sentences, you've practiced asking for information and responding to it naturally. Let's continue with another very real situation: visiting the doctor. This can feel stressful, but having the right phrases makes it much easier. At the reception desk, you say, "Hello, I have an appointment at 10. The receptionist asks for your name. You reply, "It's Anna Petrova." They nod, "Okay, please have a seat. The doctor will see you shortly." Later, the doctor asks, "What seems to be the problem today?" You explain, "I've had a headache for 2 days." They continue, "Do you have any other symptoms?" You respond, "Just a slight fever and a sore throat." That short conversation helps you describe your condition clearly and understand instructions, which is so important for your confidence in real life. And then there are formal, but essential situations like at the bank. You walk up and say, "Hi, I'd like to open a new account." The banker responds, "Of course, may I see your ID?" You hand it over and they ask, "Do you prefer a savings account or a checking account?" You answer, "I think a checking account would be best for me." Notice how all of these examples, school, work, small talk, the doctor, the bank, teach you more than words. They teach you timing, politeness, and tone. And that's what makes your English not just correct, but natural. Now, let's end this section with something lighter and more enjoyable: eating out. This is one of the most common situations where learners feel nervous, but the pattern is simple. The server greets you, "Hi, welcome. Table for 2. You answer, "Yes, please." They guide you to a table, hand you the menu, and later return, "Are you ready to order?" You say, "Yes, I'll have the grilled chicken with rice, please." They ask, "Would you like something to drink?" You reply, "Just water, thank you." When the meal is done, the exchange continues. The server says, "Would you like the bill?" You answer, "Yes, please." They hand it over and you ask, "Can I pay by card?" They reply, "Of course." You close the conversation with, "Thank you. The food was delicious," and they respond, "We're glad you enjoyed it. Have a nice day." This short restaurant dialogue is more than ordering food. It's about using polite phrases, showing gratitude, and practicing the rhythm of everyday English. And once you've said it a few times, it becomes second nature. Here's the key lesson from all of this: everyday conversations don't have to be long or complicated to make you fluent. They just have to be consistent. Every polite reply, every little question, every thank you adds up. That's how fluency grows, one exchange at a time. So far, we've practiced mornings, work, school, and even restaurants. But conversations don't stop when the sun goes down. Evenings are full of natural opportunities to speak English, whether you're at home relaxing, cooking dinner, or catching up with family and friends. Imagine walking through the door after a long day. You greet someone at home. Hey, how was your day? They answer, pretty good, just a little tiring. How about yours? You reply, same here, work was busy, but I'm glad to be home. This small routine shows how simple phrases like, how was your day? Or, I'm glad to be home, carry real emotional value. They show care, express feelings, and make daily conversations warmer. And since they're phrases you'll use again and again, they're some of the easiest and most effective to master. Dinner conversations are another perfect chance to practice. You might ask, what do you feel like eating tonight? They say, maybe something simple like pasta. You reply, great, I'll boil the water, and they add, thanks, I'll chop the vegetables. Here, you're not just talking about food, you're practicing teamwork, giving suggestions, and responding politely. Everyday chores like cooking or cleaning become real language lessons if you use English. After dinner, the talk often turns to entertainment. You ask, what should we watch tonight? Your friend suggests, there's a new comedy on Netflix. Want to try it? You laugh, sure, I could use a good laugh. Later, while watching, you might comment, that was funnier than I expected, or wow, that ending surprised me. These short exchanges let you practice expressing opinions, agreeing, reacting, or showing surprise. And that's one of the most natural ways to sound fluent. Of course, not all conversations are face-to-face. Today, so much of our communication happens through texts or online messages. But don't underestimate them, they're great practice too. You might text a friend, hey, are you free this weekend? They reply, I think so, why? You write back, maybe we could go hiking or see a movie. They answer, sounds fun, let's decide by Friday. That's informal, natural English in action. You're practicing short sentences, contractions, and quick back and forth timing. And when you write texts like this regularly, your brain starts producing natural English faster. Professional messages work the same way, but with a more polite tone. You might type, just checking if we still have a meeting tomorrow. A colleague replies, yes, 10 a.m. Don't forget your notes. You answer, thanks for the reminder. See you then. See how short and clear that was? Professional English doesn't need to be complex. It needs to be polite, precise, and respectful. Practicing even tiny work texts helps you become more confident when emailing or messaging in English. Let's add another everyday situation, making weekend plans. These are fun conversations and very useful for fluency. You ask, do you have any plans for Saturday? They answer, not really, I might just relax. You suggest, if you're free Sunday, we could grab lunch. They reply, that sounds nice, let's do it. This simple flow lets you practice invitations, suggestions, and confirmations. And because social plans are something you'll talk about all the time, mastering these patterns will give you confidence in casual English. Now think about moments when someone asks for help. A friend says, can you help me move this table? You reply, sure, let me grab one side. Or maybe they say, I'm having trouble with this app, and you respond, let me take a look. These are short, practical sentences, but they teach you essential verbs like help, grab, fix, and look. These words show up in dozens of daily conversations. Once you're comfortable with them, you'll feel fluent in all kinds of everyday situations. Sometimes conversations are about problems or concerns. For example, a friend says, I lost my wallet. You answer, oh no, do you remember where you last had it? Or you suggest, let's retrace your steps. Offering comfort with phrases like, don't worry, we'll find it, not only builds your English, but also shows empathy. Apologies are another important skill. You might say, I'm sorry I forgot to reply to your message. The other person replies, it's okay, I know you were busy. You add, thanks for understanding, I really didn't mean to ignore you. Apologies in English are more than just saying sorry. They involve explaining, softening the mistake, and showing care. Practicing them makes your communication more emotionally intelligent. Finally, let's practice likes and dislikes, because talking about what you enjoy is one of the easiest ways to connect with people. You might say, I love listening to music when I cook, or I'm not a big fan of horror movies. Someone asks, do you like spicy food? You reply, a little, but not too much. Simple sentences like these are powerful. They help you express your personality, share your preferences, and build connections. All of these evening conversations, whether about food, entertainment, plans, or feelings, are proof that fluency comes from ordinary life. The more you use English in small daily interactions, the more natural it feels. We've covered evenings, texting, and social plans. Now let's go a little further into the types of conversations that shape daily interactions: compliments, polite closings, shopping, and travel. Compliments are one of the simplest ways to add warmth to your English. Imagine saying to a friend, I love your jacket, it looks great on you. Or after someone helps you, thanks so much, I really appreciate it. These phrases are short but powerful. They show kindness and build relationships. And just as important is how you respond. A natural answer might be, thanks, that means a lot, or no problem, happy to help. Now let's look at closing conversations. Ending a talk smoothly is just as important as starting one. You might say, it was great talking to you, or I have to go now, but let's catch up soon. The other person could reply, sure, talk to you later, or take care. Practicing these short endings gives you confidence to exit conversations politely without awkwardness. Next, let's step into a shopping scene. These are some of the most common exchanges you'll face, and practicing them makes daily life easier. Picture yourself walking into a clothing store. The assistant greets you, hi, can I help you find something? You answer, yes, I'm looking for a pair of jeans. They ask, what size do you wear? You reply, I usually wear medium, but I'm not sure. The assistant says, no problem, let me grab a couple of options for you to try on. You respond, that would be great, thank you. Notice how natural that flow feels. In only a few lines, you've practiced asking for what you need, giving details, and responding politely. And you've also used real vocabulary, jeans, size, try on, words you'll definitely encounter in daily life. Now let's move to the checkout. You walk to the cashier and say, hi, I'd like to pay for these. They reply, sure. Card or cash? You answer, card, please. Then they ask, would you like a receipt? You respond, yes, please. This short sequence teaches you essential phrases for transactions, and once you've practiced it, you'll never hesitate again in shops. Shopping is one part of daily life, but travel is another. Whether it's local transportation or a trip abroad, English is everywhere. Imagine getting into a taxi. You say, hi, can you take me to Central Park? The driver replies, sure, hop in. On the way, you ask, how long will it take? They say, about 20 minutes, depending on traffic. At the end, you ask, how much is it? They reply, $15. You pay and add, keep the change, thank you. These are quick, functional conversations, but they prepare you for real-life travel. And once you practice them a few times, they'll come out naturally, even when you're in a hurry. The same applies to buses or trains. You might ask, excuse me, does this bus go to the city center? Someone replies, yes, get off at the 5th stop. At a train station, you ask, where can I buy a ticket to New York? And someone points, over there, at counter number 2. These short interactions are practical, useful, and simple to remember. Now, let's raise the level with airport conversations. At check-in, you say, good morning, I have a flight to London. The staff member replies, may I see your passport? You hand it over. They ask, any luggage to check in? You say, yes, one suitcase. They confirm, all right, your gate is 12A. Boarding starts at 9:30. You thank them, thank you very much. This kind of formal, precise language may feel intimidating at first, but with practice, it becomes automatic. And once you've done it in English, traveling feels far less stressful. Here's the main idea. Every shopping trip, every taxi ride, every ticket purchase is a language lesson in disguise. These small exchanges aren't just errands, they're training sessions for fluency. And when you treat them that way, you grow faster. We've practiced polite exchanges, shopping, and travel. But life also brings unexpected situations, problems, emergencies, and emotions. These conversations may not happen every day, but knowing the right phrases gives you confidence when they do. Imagine you're at a hotel and something isn't working. You call the front desk. Hi, the air conditioning in my room isn't working properly. The receptionist replies, I'm so sorry, we'll send someone right away. You answer, thank you, I appreciate it. Short, polite, and clear. That's all it takes to solve the problem. Or picture this, you've lost your phone. You ask a staff member, excuse me, I think I left my phone in the restaurant. Has anyone turned one in? They ask, can you describe it? You reply, it's a black phone with a blue case. They check and say, yes, here it is. You smile, thank you so much. Practicing these lines helps you stay calm and explain situations clearly. Of course, sometimes emergencies are serious. If you ever need to call for help, you might say, hello, I need an ambulance. Someone has fainted. The dispatcher asks, what's your location? You respond, we're at the corner of Main Street and Fifth Avenue. They reassure you, help is on the way. Stay on the line. Hopefully you'll never need this, but practicing it ensures you're ready if it happens. Now let's shift to something lighter, hobbies and interests. Talking about what you enjoy is one of the best ways to connect with people. You might say, I love painting, it helps me relax, or I enjoy reading mystery novels. If someone asks, what do you usually do on weekends? You reply, I often go hiking or spend time with my family. These conversations do more than expand your vocabulary. They show your personality. They let people know who you are, and that's what makes conversations meaningful. Future plans are another common topic. Someone asks, do you have plans for the holidays? You answer, yes, I'm visiting my grandparents, or I'm thinking of taking a short trip to the beach. You could also ask, where are you going for vacation, or have you booked your tickets yet? Talking about the future lets you practice sharing ideas, making suggestions, and using future tense naturally. And what about emotions? Expressing how you feel is a big part of sounding natural in English. You might say, I'm feeling a bit tired today, or I'm so happy with how my presentation went. If a friend says, I'm stressed, you can respond, is there anything I can do to help? This kind of emotional language shows not just your English ability, but your empathy. It helps you build stronger relationships in English. At the end of the day, reflection and gratitude also matter. You might say, it's been a long day, but I'm proud of what I accomplished, or I'm grateful for the people around me. To a family member, you might add, thanks for being there today, it really meant a lot. These phrases may seem small, but they carry real emotional weight. And when you practice them, you're learning to use English not just for information, but for connection. The truth is this, whether it's an emergency, a hobby, a plan, or a feeling, every situation gives you a chance to grow. And the more you use English in real moments, the less you translate in your head. You stop thinking, and you start speaking naturally. So far, we've practiced conversations at home, at work, in shops, and even in emergencies. But English doesn't stop there. It shows up in every corner of community life, in libraries, pharmacies, gyms, and even when you're planning your daily routine. Let's explore those moments together. Imagine you're at the library, ready to borrow a book. You walk up to the counter and say, Hi, I'd like to check this out, please. The librarian replies, Of course. Do you have your library card with you? You answer, Yes, here it is. They scan it and add, This book is due back in 2 weeks. You thank them. Great, thank you. Have a nice day. It's a short conversation, but you've just practiced polite requests, listening for instructions, and showing gratitude. Simple, real, and easy to repeat. Now let's go to the post office. You place a package on the counter and say, Hello, I'd like to send this to Canada. The staff member asks, Do you prefer standard or express delivery? You reply, Standard is fine. How much will it cost? They check. That will be $12. You pay and they explain. It should arrive in 7 to 10 business days. You close with, Thanks very much. Just like that, you've used vocabulary like delivery, cost, and business days, while practicing formal but practical English. Next stop, the pharmacy. You walk up and say, Hi, I'm here to pick up a prescription. The pharmacist asks, What's the name on it? You give your name, and they find it. Then they ask, do you have any questions about the medication? You reply, yes, how often should I take it? They explain, 1 tablet every 8 hours with food. You respond, got it, thank you so much. These short dialogues are important not only for language learning, but for real-life safety and independence. Of course, community also means neighbors. Imagine running into someone in the hallway. You smile and say, hi, how's it going? They answer, pretty good, just back from work. You ask, how was your day? They reply, busy, but glad it's over. And you close, same here. Have a good evening. It's simple, but these exchanges make you sound friendly and approachable. They also give you daily English practice in relaxed, low-pressure situations. Sometimes you might need to ask a neighbor for help. You knock on the door and say, hi, sorry to bother you, but could I borrow your screwdriver for a few minutes? They reply, sure, no problem, let me grab it. You say, thanks so much, I'll return it soon. Later, when you bring it back, you add, thanks again, that really helped. They smile, you're welcome anytime. This is polite, practical English at its best. You're showing respect, gratitude, and friendliness, all with short, simple phrases. Now, let's step into the gym. You walk to the front desk and say, hi, I'd like to sign up for a membership. They reply, we have monthly and yearly plans. Which one would you like? You answer, I'll start with the monthly plan. They continue, would you like to join group classes as well? You say, yes, I'd love to try yoga. Inside the gym, a trainer greets you. Is this your first time here? You reply, yes, I'm just getting started. They reassure you, let's begin with some light exercises and build up gradually. You respond, that sounds good, thank you for helping me. Even fitness conversations are great English practice. They teach you to describe your level, ask questions, and follow instructions. And because they're tied to action, they're easy to remember. Of course, fitness can happen anywhere, even when you're traveling. Imagine walking through a new city with a friend. You say, I'm getting hungry. Want to stop somewhere to eat? They answer, yeah, let's look for a place. You find a restaurant and say, this place looks nice. Want to try it? They agree, sure, let's check it out. Inside, the host greets you, table for two? You reply, yes, please. Once seated, you glance at the menu. I think I'll get the grilled chicken salad. Your friend says, I'm going for the cheeseburger. You suggest, let's share some fries too. When the server comes, you order, I'll have the grilled chicken salad, please, and we'll also share a side of fries. Later, when they ask, would you like any dessert? You reply, no, thank you. Just the check, please. And finally, can I pay by card? They say, of course. This isn't just about food, it's about clear, polite, confident communication. These short, repeated exchanges polish your fluency until you no longer think about them, you just speak. Now let's shift to routines and goals, because conversations about daily habits are also excellent practice. Imagine a friend asking, what are your goals for this year? You say, I want to improve my English and read more books. They reply, great idea. I want to exercise more and eat healthier. This isn't just small talk, it's practice with future tense, encouragement, and sharing personal ideas. You can also describe your routine. I usually wake up at 6, stretch a little, and then have breakfast. A friend might answer, that sounds like a productive start to the day. Talking about schedules gives you practice with useful verbs like wake up, stretch, and eat. Conversations about learning are just as powerful. Someone asks, how do you stay focused while studying? You reply, I keep my phone away and study in short sessions. Or they say, I've been learning English by watching videos. You answer, that's great, I do that too, it really helps. Sharing routines and study habits teaches you not only vocabulary, but also the language of motivation and productivity. And that's English you'll use for a lifetime. We've talked about conversations at home, at work, in shops, and even at the gym. But in today's world, so much of communication happens online, through social media, emails, or video calls. These moments matter just as much for your English practice. Let's start with something casual, like social media. A friend messages you, "Hey, how's your day going?" You reply, "Pretty good, just finished work." "What about you?" They answer, "Same here, I'm exhausted." You add, "I know the feeling. Let's catch up this weekend." Short, natural, and exactly how people actually write to each other in English. Emails are different, more formal and structured. Suppose you're writing to your manager, "Dear Mr. Davis, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to check if the meeting is still scheduled for Thursday at 2 p.m. They reply, "Yes, the meeting is confirmed." You close with, "Thanks for confirming. I'll be ready with the presentation." The language is polite, clear, and professional. Practicing emails like this helps you sound confident in business situations. Now imagine an online meeting. You begin, "Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?" A colleague says, "Yes, we can." You continue, "Great, let's get started with today's agenda." During the call you might say, "Could you repeat that last point?" or "I'd like to add something here." At the end you wrap up, "Thanks for your time, everyone. Let's follow up next week." These conversations may feel formal, but they're real, everyday English. The more you practice them, the more comfortable you'll feel in digital communication. But not all evening conversations are formal. Think about a simple chat at home when the day is ending. You ask, "Did anything interesting happen today?" They reply, "Not really, just the usual." "What about you?" You say, "I had a few meetings, but nothing stressful." They smile, "It's nice to relax now." You answer, "Yes, I needed this break." Simple, but meaningful. You're sharing feelings, using past tense naturally, and connecting through English. Maybe you plan for tomorrow. You ask, "Should we go grocery shopping in the morning?" They reply, "Yes, what do we need?" You answer, "Milk, eggs, and vegetables." They say, "Let's make a list." These quick exchanges help you practice planning and organizing. Even chores are practice. You might say, "Can you help me fold the laundry?" The reply, "Sure, just give me 5 minutes." You respond, "Thanks, I'll start with the shirts." Everyday tasks become English training when you use the language for them. And then there are exciting moments, like planning a weekend trip. You say, "I was thinking of going to the mountains this Saturday." Your friend asks, "How long is the drive?" You answer, "About 3 hours." They suggest, "Should we pack snacks?" You reply, "Yes, and maybe extra clothes in case it gets cold." Here you're practicing how to make suggestions, talk about the future, and organize plans. When you come back, you get to practice storytelling. "The view was incredible," or "I took beautiful photos of the sunset." These moments build your descriptive language. Sometimes conversations go deeper. A friend says, "I've been feeling down lately." You reply, "I'm sorry to hear that. Do you want to talk about it?" They say, "I just feel stuck." You respond, "That's normal, we all go through tough times. I'm here for you." These dialogues teach empathy, emotional vocabulary, and supportive phrases, skills that matter as much as grammar. And don't forget celebrations. You might say, "Tomorrow is my sister's birthday. I want to get her a gift." A friend suggests, "How about a book?" You answer, "Perfect, I'll stop by the bookstore." These conversations let you share joy and traditions. At the end of the day, even bedtime routines are practice. You say, "Good night, sleep well." They reply, "Good night, sweet dreams." Small phrases, but they add warmth, and fluency comes from repeating these small moments. Here's the truth. English is not just a subject to study. It's a living language woven into your daily life. Every thank you, every good night, every how was your day brings you closer to fluency. And here's something important. You don't need long speeches or complicated vocabulary. What you really need is consistency, short, daily practice that turns into habit. Every conversation is training. Every exchange is progress. Even if you're alone, you can still practice. Talk to yourself in English. Say out loud, "I'm making coffee," or "I need to finish my emails." It may feel strange at first, but this habit pushes your brain to think in English instead of translating. And at the end of the day, reflect in English. "I learned a lot today," or "I made mistakes, but I corrected them." Encouraging yourself in English is powerful. It builds both confidence and skill. So let's wrap this up. Fluency doesn't come from one big moment. It comes from small steps taken every day. From ordering coffee to making travel plans, from asking for help to saying good night, every little conversation counts. If this practice helped you today, subscribe to Talk Easy English podcasts so you don't miss the next lesson. Drop a comment below and share. How do you practice English in your daily life? Stay consistent, stay motivated, and I'll see you in the next episode.